It certainly does feel like Ragnarok sometimes, doesn't it? The end of the world is nigh. And unfortunately, I feel like the banking situation here in the UK being even more restrictive on people spending their own money is just going to get worse. There's been some legislation changes, and that means the banks are now categorically liable if there is some kind of fraud. And that means they are going to be hot on you buying and selling. Spending your money, receiving your money is going to get more difficult, and it's going to happen quick. In fact, it's already happening. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Welcome to another Precious Metal Ramble where we shoot the breeze about all things precious and shiny. And we're also going to talk today about banking as it relates to buying and selling things, because we thought it was bad before when banks would question what we're buying and maybe even question the money that's coming into your account and put it on hold or stop you from using your account altogether. I predict that is going to get 10 times worse because there has been a rule change here in the United Kingdom, which there's some good things. It helps and protects people from fraud a lot better and has quick turnarounds. If you're taken in a scam, you're going to get your money back, up to £85,000 anyway, very quickly. That's good. Love that. Been a victim of a scam myself, and I can say from the bottom of my heart, that's great. But I think it's going to force the banks to be a whole lot more restrictive on what you do with your money. I don't like that. I have said many a time that that is really, really annoying. I get that there has to be some scam protection, but when you're on the phone to your bank and you're going, everything's fine, please spend my money, or let me spend my money, and they don't, that sucks. I do have a little example of a customer or a potential customer of mine that couldn't pay for something because the bank said no, and when he closed his account, he couldn't even take his money out. It was really, really horrible. So we'll talk about that example and more as we go. But I do genuinely think that the changes that have come into force will make the banks even worse here in the UK. And it's going to happen worldwide at some point, let me tell you. I mean, it's already difficult to sell your stuff. What impact will that have on the second-hand market? That's what I want to talk about today. How is it going to impact me as a business? How is it going to impact my buying and selling arrangements that we have on the Buyers Club? And just generally, is it going to be good or bad? Is it going to drive people to eBay? We're going to talk about that as well, because, oh, let me tell you, if you go and start selling on eBay, you could be in some trouble there, let me tell you. Oh, right, a lot to get through. Quick reminder to hit the thumbs up button if you like our content, and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. 70% of people who watch our videos are not subscribed. So subscribe now. It's down there. It's easy. Right. That's all done. Let's go. We're looking at some very cool pieces along the way of this video as well. A big thank you to the Germania Mint, who have sent me some of their latest and greatest absolutely stunning products. You got to always love the Germania Mint stuff. Absolutely brilliant. So we're going to have a look at that in the background. Now, what is the big fundamental shift and change that has happened? So in the United Kingdom, there has been some legislation changes, which has meant now that if you fall victim to what's called an automatic payment push scam, so in other words, somebody convinces you to send your money somewhere because you thought they were the bank or the police or wherever, you're going to get your money back within 5 days, I think it is as well. And that's protected up to £85,000, about $100,000. So, you know, life-changing sums of money now back in your account within 5 days. And then that's the bank's problem to try and recuperate and sort that out. I have fallen victim to a scam myself. I have fallen victim very hard. I went down that rabbit hole very easily, and it can suck. If you are even in that position for a few £100s, it can be soul-destroying, and it really was horrible for me. So there's some good. Let's talk about the good. I like the fact now that people will get their money back very quickly. That is a huge shift and change, and something which I will commend the new legislation for, because people, if they're in that situation, just want to know that they're safe. But it's pushing now the responsibility onto the banks. And so what I don't like is that potentially there's going to be a rise of people who are now just a little bit complacent, maybe. You know, if somebody's trying to sell them something and, you know, they think they can make a quick buck on things, you know, the world's hard right now. People could fall victim to just getting scammed very quickly with the knowledge that, if it doesn't actually work out to be right, then that's fine because I'm just going to get my money back within 5 days. So that means, and this is where the crux of the matter comes in, that really means that unfortunately we are going to start seeing banks pushing back on us customers. If we're buying something, if we're making a payment for something, the banks are going to be a lot more on it, because they know that if somebody, or if the person that you're sending the money to, is a scammer, fine, you're protected. But if not, and then you start saying they are, and I can see some people doing that in time, some scammers on less scrupulous people, the bank is on the hook. So they're going to be on it. They are really going to be on it. And that's only going to be intrusive on us. And it's happened a load in the last year. I mean, basically, sort of 18 months ago, I hardly ever came across situations where people would, have their bank basically put their money on hold when they're trying to buy for something. It happened, I think. I've had my debit card declined once or twice, and then you just get a text going, was this you? And you say yes, and then you can go and place the order for something again. That's fine, I don't mind that. But, I have not really heard before 18 months ago people just having their banks completely locked out. I had one which was really horrible, where I tried to buy something from the Royal Mint and my bank then blocked my entire card for 72 hours, which was awful. I ended up getting £50 compensation from my bank for that, from NatWest, but it was the nuclear option for that kind of thing. This is slightly different though. This is now, what I really hate about this, and what will really grind, I think, a lot of other people's gears about it, is that there's this automatic assumption now that everybody out there is either being scammed or is scamming someone else. And it's going to happen both ways. If you start getting a bunch of money into your bank accounts from just whoever it might be, Joe Blogs, you're selling some gold or silver, your bank could and might likely question it, because ultimately, if they see you having like 50 grand come in because you've sold a whole bunch of gold, they might go, hang on a minute, we need to protect this money that's in the account, because if the people who sent the money say it's a scam, then we as the bank that's received the money might be on the hook. You see, it's a whole cyclical thing. All the banks are going to be working together now to work out the best way of protecting themselves. And this is all hidden under the guise of protecting individuals through this fraud protection. If you want to protect people from fraud protection, make sure it is more difficult for these fraudsters to actually impersonate the banks and get the education out there to customers. Don't just slap this easy £85,000 completely free, get out of jail free card. It's just not going to be worth it. People are gullible. People are, people want to have a quick turnaround. If there's a potential investment return that they've got and they have to send their money out to this place, they will do it. People, unfortunately, will get taken in. Even people who, like myself, thought they were maybe beyond being scammed, because I'm pretty savvy in this world. I got fallen victim to it. It's not a hard thing to happen, but the banks could do more to prevent it from happening in the first place. And unfortunately, their method of preventing it from happening in the first place is going to be nuking our accounts and making sure that we can't spend our money. So there's good. I like the fact that we can get things reimbursed. That is fantastic. But at the same time, I really don't like the intrusiveness that happens. I personally think there should be an easy fire thing where you can just tick a box or write, or if you're on the phone to somebody, confirm over the phone on a recorded phone call, this is not a scam. If it is a scam, then tough on me. You're not liable. You just pass that liability on to yourself. I think that is something that should happen, because the banks will just flat out say no. And rightly so, and probably in this comment section you'll see a bunch of people going, well, you need to remember, Backyard Bullion, that the money that's in your bank account isn't yours. It's being loaned to the bank, and the bank owns it, and it's just, your credit note to get the money out. Well, yes and no, but at the same time, I am a firm believer that the money that's in your account is your money, and it should be able to be spent how you want it. If you want to just take out a boatload of cash and have a hot tub full of £5 notes or $1 bills. I think there was a great scene in the show The Ozarks, I think it was the first episode maybe, when he has to go and get millions of dollars out of his bank account, and the bank were really not wanting it because they didn't have enough cash in their bank. That's a subject for another time. And he just basically said, well, listen, I have all the right to get my money out, and I'm not allowed, I don't have to tell you what you want me to do with it. If I want to just go sit in a hot tub, I think he said, and bathe with my $1 million in $1 bills, then that's my prerogative. And quite frankly, I agree with him. That is not that I want to go and do that, but that is a prerogative for people to go and spend their money for what they want. So to a real world example, recently I had a kilo bar come through on our buyers club, and there was a chap on the Silver Forum who had put up a want ad for a kilo bar. So I messaged him and said, we can link up and do this. Here's the bank details for the seller. And he tried to make that payment online, couldn't do it. So for whatever reason, he couldn't do it. I don't quite know why. So he went into the bank to try and do it, and the bank would not let him do it. They would not. They were giving him the nth inquisition, and they just flat out wouldn't. He was really good at trying to stick to his guns and tell them, no, I want to spend my money, but they just left him in the foyer of the bank for like an hour whilst somebody went to speak to a manager. Of course they did, and then they came back and said no, and they basically blocked his account, at which point he'd throw a bit of a wobbly, in a polite way, I believe, and basically said he wants to close his account and withdraw all the money. And he didn't have tens of thousands in his account. It wasn't a large amount in his account, but he had a few thousand in his account. They said flat out no. The maximum that he could withdraw from his account was £500. Even when closing his account, they did not want to do it at all. And I find that ridiculous. So, what impact is that going to have on the precious metal buying and selling markets? I am concerned that there could be potential scammers out there that might take the piss. So I'm worried that there could well be people who will pay for something and then go and moan at their bank saying that it was fraud. So that's, I think, going to be an interesting one to see how that evolves, because that's different to the sort of payment push fraud that this whole legislation is supposed to be in place to protect against. But at the same time, if somebody's kind of convinced you to send money to them to buy something, then you could potentially be in a bit of trouble. Now, of course, if you're doing it fraudulently, the person who's committing the fraud, the buyer who's committing the fraud, is going to completely get unstuck at some point. But unfortunately, there are people who'll just do that, and maybe they've set up a fake account, or maybe they're using somebody else's account. But if you've bought a gold coin, like if you bought a 1 ounce gold coin, £2,000, you bought this for £2,000, you got it delivered, next day delivery, and then in a week's time you go to the bank and say, I want my money back, and you've taken all that money away, you've liquidated the gold. You could theoretically put sellers into a bit of sticky water. Sticky water? No, sticky wickets. Sticky water, honestly, what am I talking about? But anyway, it could happen, and whilst I don't think it will happen in the same way, this legislation is not designed to protect against that. And I would like to think that in those circumstances that the banks would actually have some common sense and realise that this is a fraud on the banks, not on the person who's claiming fraud. I don't know, but it is interesting. It is interesting. I would not be surprised that if we start seeing some reports of that happening over the course of the next couple of weeks and months, quite frankly. So, is it going to drive people to eBay? That's what I wanted to round this video up by saying. So for those that haven't seen my little update that happened over the weekend on the eBay situation. So everybody now, private sellers, can sell stuff on eBay fee-free, in the UK anyway. I'm sorry to all those international people who probably got a bit of a happy surprise and then realised actually it's not going to happen for them. Be warned, if you if you sell on eBay as a private seller and you do enough stuff, eBay are probably going to come and tell you that you need to be a business rather than a private seller. It's a whole minefield, and it's already happening. There are videos out there showing people being told that they need to register as a business account, even though they're just private individuals selling their stuff. I mean, my concern would be for somebody who has invested in silver and gold. They've bought a whole bunch of stuff over the course of, I don't know, a few years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be. And then they just decide, you know what, I'm going to slowly start selling my investments. And, perhaps they do 10 sales a month, something like that. And eBay then, their algorithm, the computer says no. The algorithm goes, I'm sorry, but you're trading now. You're a business. You're not trading at all. In my opinion, that is completely not trading. And yet you will have to register because they'll ban your account. They'll stop you from selling. They will. And it has been said on different other accounts. I've seen other videos out there from people saying that they have had this email where eBay have given them an ultimatum, said you need to become a business seller or we'll stop your account from being able to sell, period. And that sucks. So that's more intrusion. Ugh, we'll see. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to be in business in this country. It's getting harder and harder to do bank-related stuff in this country. It sucks. I have had personal experiences of these kind of situations before. It's not fun. The biggest worry, I think I'm going to round out this would be if you are going to go meet someone. So, for example, my big story, in fact, it's one of the videos that blew up this year that I've done, where I met somebody in a bank foyer, ironically not the bank that we were buying stuff through, but in a bank foyer to buy 25 kilos of silver, and my bank wouldn't let me push through the payment. I had to spend like 2 hours on the phone to actually get the payment authorized. What happens in those situations where somebody's gone to not just buy gold and silver, but if you've gone to buy a car, you've gone to a car down the road and you've bought some cash for deposit, but the rest you're going to do bank transfer or whatever, or you're just going to do a lot in bank transfer? And the bank says no. Yeah, not going to happen. And you bet your bottom dollar that if you're buying a £10,000 car and you go and try and get £10,000 cash out the bank, that ain't going to happen either. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one to see how it goes over time, and more and more intrusion. What I would say, I'm not a financial advisor and there's not financial advice, but get as many bank accounts as you can. There are loads of good current account holders out there from various different banks, and some are better than others. Some are better than others when sending to different institutions as well, I've found. It's very weird. Like, some are better when you receive, some are worse when you receive. There's a whole host of different ones. Go and get as many as you can. I've done that. I've got a whole bunch of different random current accounts, which I'll usually keep just £1 in, just to keep them open. And then if and when, perhaps, like for example, getting cash out, and perhaps you go to the bank and they're not allowing you to get more than the daily allowance out. If you've got 10 different bank accounts with £500 in each, and you can get £500 out of each cash machine with those bank cards, that's £5,000 straight there. Easy in an emergency. But it's weird. For example, I was trying to buy something. What was I trying to do? It was the Royal Mint situation. So my NatWest card was blocked by the Royal Mint. They did not by the Royal Mint, sorry, by my bank trying to buy from the Royal Mint. And I phoned them up and they just put this like 72-hour hold on it. It was ridiculous. So I just went to First Direct. I have a bank account with First Direct and I have never used the card before in my life. And I bought this thing and it wasn't even that much. It was like 200 quid's worth of stuff through the Royal Mint's website. And got it straight first time. There was like a text message to say, this is your authorization code for the transaction. Great, done. It's easy. Have multiple accounts. Be prepared for that kind of thing. It's important to do, I think. So anyway, yes, there we go. Life's going to get even more difficult. Yay! How amazing. So that is where we are. I would like to hear what you've got to say on the subject. I'm just now going to see if we can find certificate numbers. Yes, we can. For my Cool Kids Club members, we have 2 COAs here for these brilliant Skull and Hearty coins. So please quote 007A and 007B if you're in the Cool Kids Club. If you don't know, then you're not a cool kid. So let me know your thoughts on this whole subject down below. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and the like button, and we'll see you on the next video. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.